Far away from Earth, in a quiet part of space, a signal began to flash. It was weak, broken, full of fear. The signal traveled across the stars, moving through dark systems and empty voids until it reached human space. The message was not in a language humans knew, but it repeated one word over and over again: help. Inside Earth's deep space listening post 7, a young technician named Cameron stared at the screen. "Sir," he called, voice shaky, "you need to see this." Commander Lin walked over, her eyes scanning the strange patterns on the monitor. The signal wasn't human. It wasn't from any known species either, but it was definitely real. Something or someone was crying out in terror. The message was quickly sent to Earth Command. Within hours, every major station and fleet center had received it. No one could fully translate the message, but the tone was clear. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Back in the military High Council chamber on Earth, the leaders of the human Defense Force listened to a cleaned version of the signal. The voice, alien, trembling, spoke directly into their ears. "Please, hear us. They are coming. We are dying." It wasn't a trick. The emotion was too raw, too painful. Someone, somewhere was being wiped out. Admiral Riker, leader of the Deathworlder fleet, stood with arms crossed. He was tall, with silver hair and a face full of scars. People said he had seen more battles than any other living human. He didn't speak right away. The others argued around him. It could be a trap. What if it's bait to draw out our fleet? Or worse, it spread something. Riker finally spoke. His voice was calm but powerful. "If it's a trap, we'll crush it. If it's real and we ignore it, we may be next." Everyone went quiet. The decision was made. A fleet would go. Not just any fleet. The Deathworlder fleet. Elite human warships, trained to survive on the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. Ships with names like Hammerfall, Gravewind, and the Valiant. Their job was simple: follow the signal, confirm the danger, and respond with full force if needed. The fleet launched in silence. 20 ships. Thousands of soldiers, dozens of war AIs, all moving toward the unknown. As they traveled through warp space, strange things began to happen. Communications went fuzzy. Energy readings blinked in and out. A few soldiers started having bad dreams, visions of black skies and screaming stars. But they kept going. Admiral Riker stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the stars. "What do we know about the aliens?" he asked. Lieutenant Salas pulled up the report. "They call themselves the Djarin. We have no records of them. No trade. No history. Nothing. First contact," Riker muttered. "And it's a scream for help." When the fleet arrived, the Djarin home system was barely holding on. 3 planets were already dead, burned to ash. One last planet, Jaris Prime, still had signs of life, but just barely. The Deathworlder fleet moved in fast, weapons armed but not firing. A signal came through. A shaky voice, clearly translated by a weak AI, spoke to the human ships. Humans. "Deathworlders, you came..." Riker opened a channel. "We received your distress call. What attacked you?" There was a long pause. Then the voice whispered, "The Void Swarm." No one had heard that name before. "What is it?" Riker asked. The answer made even hardened soldiers freeze. "It consumes stars. It eats memory. It cannot be reasoned with. It does not speak. It only spreads." As the Djarin spoke, the humans saw something moving beyond the dead planets. A dark wave, shifting, alive. Like space itself was bleeding. Riker whispered, "God help us." It was not a fleet. It was not a species. It was something else. It was coming straight for them. The Djarin voice spoke again, broken with emotion. "We begged the other species. They closed their gates. They left us. But you came. You. The ones they fear. You came." The fleet was quiet. Every captain, every crew member knew what this meant. The Deathworlders hadn't arrived to negotiate. They had come to end this. And they would. Riker gave the order. "Shields up. Charge weapons. Prepare to meet the swarm." No one questioned him. Across the fleet, engines roared and weapons lit up. The humans had answered the cry for help. And now, they were ready to make the stars burn. The black wave in space didn't move fast. It drifted slowly, almost gently, but everything it touched vanished. Whole moons disappeared. Space stations turned to dust. The humans called it the Void Swarm, but it looked more like a living shadow, changing shape every second. From the bridge of the Valiant, Admiral Riker stared at the approaching darkness. "I want full scans," he ordered. "Every kind of sensor. Find a weakness." His crew worked fast, but the data was strange. Nothing matched known energy types. The swarm didn't reflect light. It didn't send out heat. It didn't have a center. "It's not made of ships," said Lieutenant Solace. "It's like a field, a living storm." "Then we'll fight it like one," Riker said. He opened a channel to the Jarran survivors on Jarrus Prime. Their leader, a thin, shaking, being named Talrin, appeared on screen. "We are ready to evacuate," Talrin said. "But there's no time. Our shields are falling. We beg you. If you must choose between us and the swarm, destroy the swarm." Riker didn't answer right away. He studied the Jarran leader. "You knew no one else would come," Riker said. Talrin nodded slowly. "Yes, the others are afraid of you, but we know what fear truly is now." Riker gave a small nod. "Then you'll see what happens when Deathworlders get serious." The fleet formed a wide arc in front of Jarrus Prime. 10 massive warships, support ships behind them. Drones launched and formed a forward screen. The humans were ready. The swarm began to change. Out of the black cloud, shapes formed. Twisting limbs, long, shifting spikes. Like machines and creatures mixed into one. The swarm had no language, but it had a purpose: consume, expand, replace, and now. The humans stood in its way. Riker gave the order. "Fire!" Missiles launched from every ship. Railguns roared. Plasma beams lit up the void. The first wave hit the swarm and passed right through. The swarm bent and folded around the weapons. Some parts burned but quickly healed. Then it attacked. 1,000 dark shapes shot toward the fleet. The first human ship to fall was the Brimstone. Its shields lasted only seconds. Then the swarm tore into the hull like it was paper. The crew didn't scream. There wasn't time. The ship exploded into nothing. Riker clenched his fists. "Hold the line! Use EMPs! Nanoclouds! Everything!" The Gravewind fired a new kind of bomb, one that turned matter into unstable energy. This time, part of the swarm was torn apart. It didn't heal. "We found something!" Solace shouted. "It reacts to unstable quantum fields. It doesn't know how to rebuild those parts." "Target everything we've got there," Riker barked. One by one, the human ships focused fire on the swarm's weak spots. Explosions tore through space. The swarm shrieked, not in sound, but in energy, like the fabric of space itself was screaming. Then it pulled back. The swarm retreated slightly, shifting its form again. Smaller parts broke off and circled the fleet. Solace frowned. "Sir, they're learning." "How fast?" Riker asked. "Too fast. They're already adjusting to our attacks." The human fleet had slowed the swarm, but it wasn't enough. Back on Jarrus Prime, Talrin watched the battle in silence. "You should go," he said through the comm. "We are already lost. Save yourselves." Riker shook his head. "No. Deathworlders don't run from monsters. We finish them." He sent a coded message to Earth Command. One word: escalate. Far. Across the stars, Earth received it. Deep in orbit, a black project was activated. A superweapon, never tested in war, began to power up. Its name was simple: the Anvil. Meanwhile, the battle above Jaris Prime continued. Human ships were damaged. 5 drone wings had been wiped out, but the fleet still stood, and the Jaran survivors watched with awe. They had sent their cry for help into the void. Most thought it would vanish. Instead, it had reached the one species, too stubborn to ignore it. The humans weren't there for peace. They had come to fight, and fight they would, until there was nothing left to fear. The battle had slowed, not because the swarm was weak, but because it was learning. Every time the human fleet tried something new, the swarm adapted. Its dark tendrils avoided unstable energy. It moved faster, smarter. It was not just fighting, it was watching. Admiral Riker stood on the bridge of the Valiant, arms behind his back. The screens showed chaos, flames in space, broken metal floating. One of the gunships, the Emberlight, was dragging itself with damaged engines, still alive but barely. "We're losing momentum," said Solace. "We heard it, but it's not stopping." Riker didn't answer. He looked out into the black. The swarm was still out there, just beyond range, watching, waiting. Talren, the Jaran leader, appeared on screen again. His skin was pale, his voice weaker now. "It will not stop, Admiral. It never stops. Not until everything is quiet. It feeds on light, on life. It even remembers things it destroys." Riker raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Talren looked away. "When it came to our colony on Varo 9, it consumed a science vessel. 2 days later, it sent back our own scientists' voices, repeating screams we'd never heard before." The bridge went silent. "You're saying it learns through what it eats?" Solace asked. Talren nodded. "And now? It has tasted your kind." A cold chill ran through the crew. If the swarm had already touched human ships. "What had it taken?" "Get me a scan of the wreckage from the Brimstone," Riker ordered. Minutes later, the data arrived. Something was wrong. Fragments from the ship were missing. Not just metal, but pieces of the ship's AI core. It wasn't random destruction. The swarm had taken the intelligence systems. Riker's eyes narrowed. "It's not just feeding, it's collecting," Solace whispered. "Then it could start thinking like us." That was the moment the fleet realized the truth. They weren't fighting a wild storm. They were fighting something that could learn war. Across the system, the swarm began to move again. This time, it didn't attack directly. It split into hundreds of smaller shapes, like insects breaking from a hive. They moved faster than before, targeted, focused. "New pattern!" shouted a technician. "They're going for our comm ships and sensor arrays." "They want to blind us," Riker said. Orders flew across the fleet. Defensive formations shifted. Drones were launched. A group of fast attack ships, led by Razorline, moved to intercept the smaller swarm units. For a few minutes, the humans held the line. Then came the scream. Not a sound, but a burst of energy so strong it shook every ship. The swarm had created something new. A central shape formed in the void, larger than anything before. A giant sphere made of broken ship parts, bones, metal, and something else. Something living. It pulsed like a heart. Solace stared. "Sir, that's made from human tech." Riker stepped closer. His voice was low. "It made a brain, a command structure, a leader. The swarm had built a mind, and it was coming for them." "The Anvil?" Solace asked quietly. Riker nodded. "It needs to be used, but we need time to charge it." They sent the signal. Across the stars, hidden inside a hollowed-out moon near Earth, the Anvil began its power-up sequence. It needed 20 minutes to become active. After that, it could be fired once, and only once. Its blast would fold space in a controlled collapse. Anything caught inside would be crushed into nothing. But if they failed to guide it right, They'd take Xeris Prime with them. Back in the battle, the Grave Wind moved in front of the swarm's brain ship. It opened fire with its heaviest cannons. For a moment, it looked like it might work. The swarm flinched, then it responded. Thousands of small shapes launched forward. They tore through the Grave Wind's armor, ripped through engines, and pierced the command deck. The Grave Wind exploded. Riker didn't blink. He turned to his crew. Begin the final phase. We hold until the anvil is ready. If we fall, it fires anyway. Solace hesitated. Even if we're still here? Yes, Riker said. We die, or the galaxy does. Outside, the stars burned. With war. The swarm had changed. It was smarter, more dangerous. But so were the humans. And humanity had just decided. This would end now. The space around Xeris Prime was full of wreckage. Pieces of metal, burnt drones, shattered ships, all floating in silence. But the battle wasn't over. The Void Swarm had changed. It no longer attacked wildly. It moved like a mind with a mission. Its new central brain ship, made of broken human and alien tech, pulsed with dark energy. Every second, it grew smarter. On the bridge of the Valiant, Admiral Riker stood with his hands resting on the rail. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "How long until the anvil is ready?" he asked. 16 minutes, Solace replied, checking his screen. But we may not last that long. The swarm had pushed forward again, sending waves of fast-moving units that attacked weak points in the fleet. Human defense lines were breaking. Small ships were being lost one by one. The support cruiser Midpoint exploded after a direct hit from the swarm's energy lances. On the screen, the crew watched. The flames vanish into cold space. "They're focusing on our supply ships now," Solace said. "They know what we need to survive." "They're thinking like soldiers," Riker said, "because they've taken our soldiers. They've eaten our AI. They're learning us from the inside out." He looked across the bridge at his crew. Some were young, others veterans. All of them knew they might not make it, but none of them were running. "New command," Riker said. "We hold position. No retreats, no movement. We force them into one spot." Solace looked up. "You're trying to trap the swarm." Riker nodded. "We can't kill it with guns, but we can hold it. Make it chase us into the anvil's blast." Zone. Outside, the swarm approached again. Thousands of dark forms in the shape of claws, tentacles, wings, and things no one could name. They moved like water through space, flowing around resistance. The remaining human fleet tightened its formation. Every ship linked shields. Drone units moved into position and began building an invisible cage, one made of radiation fields, EMP mines, and grav pulse walls. It wouldn't hold forever, but it only needed to hold long enough. From Xeris Prime, the Djarin people watched the battle. Their cities were dark, their skies filled with smoke, but they saw the humans standing firm. Talrin, the Djarin leader, looked at the broadcast. He whispered, "They do not run, even when death comes." Inside, the swarm, the brain ship, reacted. It scanned the human ships. It understood the trap. But something strange happened. Instead of turning away, it charged faster. On the Valiant, alarms rang. "They know it's a trap," Solace shouted. "They're coming anyway." Riker didn't move. "They think we won't fire it if we're still here. They think we're afraid of dying." He tapped the comms. "Put me through to the fleet." A second later, every human ship heard his voice. "This is Admiral Riker. This is the final stand. The swarm is coming. You all know what we face. We do not surrender. We do not retreat. We are Deathworlders. That name means something. Let's show them why." "Across the fleet," soldiers shouted back. Pilots gritted their teeth. Gunners charged their weapons. Every hand was ready. 10 minutes. The swarm hit the outer line. Drone mines exploded. Pulse walls lit up. Ships fired everything they had. Still, the swarm came. 5 minutes, the destroyer. Black Edge was torn in half. Its captain stayed at the gun until the last second. The blast from its reactor took a chunk of the swarm with it. 3 minutes. The Valiant shook from impact. Internal lights flickered, but Riker stayed on the bridge. "They're almost in the zone," Solace said. "Just a bit more. 1 minute." The brain ship entered the kill zone. All around it, the rest of the swarm followed. They were close, too close. If they reached Jaris Prime, the planet would be gone. Riker looked at Solace. "Now!" Solace sent the command. Across the stars, the anvil responded. The hollow moon that held the weapon cracked open. Inside, a device began to glow white-hot. It folded space in on itself, like crushing a ball made of gravity. And then it fired. A beam of compressed reality slammed into the swarm's position. Space twisted. Time shook. The stars blinked. Everything inside the kill zone collapsed. The brain ship let out one final blast of noise, so loud it caused systems on the Valiant to shut down. And then, nothing. Silence. No swarm, no movement, only stars. For a few seconds, that's all anyone heard. No alarms, no voices. Just the soft hum of systems slowly coming back online. The anvil's blast had not only destroyed the swarm, it had bent the fabric of space around Jaris Prime. Even light took a second longer to return. On the Valiant, Admiral Riker opened his eyes. "Status report," he said quietly. Solace blinked at his console. "Shields down. Weapons offline. But we're alive." "Is the swarm gone?" Solace ran the scan twice to be sure. "Yes, sir. It's gone. All of it. Nothing left. Not even debris." The crew on the bridge let out a breath they didn't know they were holding. Some slumped in their seats. Others leaned on walls. One soldier cried quietly, but not from sadness. They had survived. Across the fleet, battered human ships checked in one by one. Most were damaged. Some had only a few systems still running, but enough were alive to count it as a victory. Riker looked at the screen. Jaris Prime slowly rotated below them, still scarred, but still standing. "Open a channel to the Jarin," he said. Talrin's face appeared. His large eyes looked tired. But there was something new in them. Hope. "You did it," he said. Riker nodded. "We stopped it. For now." Talrin bowed slightly. "The Jarin will not forget. You answered a call no one else would." Riker's voice was steady. "That's what we do." But even as he spoke, something gnawed at the back of his mind. It had all gone too smoothly. The swarm had been smarter in its last moves. It had understood the trap. So why had it charged into it? Why? Didn't it turn away? Solace spoke first. "Admiral, I've been thinking. What if it wanted to die?" Riker turned. "Explain." "The brain ship. It made itself easy to track. It didn't dodge. What if it was distracting us?" "From what?" Solace pointed at the sensor logs. "Look. Just before the anvil fired, one piece of the swarm broke off. Tiny, too small to notice during battle. It slipped into a wormhole just outside the kill zone." Riker stared at the data. His jaw clenched. "So, it survived. Not all of it," Solace said, "but a seed, like a backup. It copied its memory into that piece." Riker stood silently for a moment. Then he spoke. "Where did it go?" "We don't know yet," Solace replied. "The wormhole signature was strange, like it folded into another part of the galaxy, or another galaxy entirely." Talrin's voice came over the comms again. "Admiral, you look troubled." "I thought this was a victory," Riker answered. "It was. But we didn't kill it. We only forced it to run. And now it knows us." Talrin paused. "And what will you do?" Riker looked at the stars. "We prepare." Back on Earth, the message had already reached command. The swarm was destroyed, but not erased. Humanity had learned what it was facing. A threat that didn't want to conquer. It wanted to become everything. The anvil had bought time, nothing more. In a quiet bunker under the mountains, scientists reviewed the data. Historians studied swarm behavior. Engineers began designing a second anvil. Bigger, faster, stronger, and one room stayed locked. Inside it, behind glass walls, floated a small black crystal, taken from a probe that returned from the swarm's outer edge. The crystal pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. It was all that remained of the swarm, or so they thought. Deep in a distant part of the galaxy, light bent in strange ways. A wormhole opened briefly. Out of it came something small. It drifted silently through empty space. Just a dark shape, no bigger than a child's toy. It landed on a dead moon. For a while, it did nothing. Then it pulsed, and from the ground, things began to move. The dead moon had no name, no light, no sound. Just rock, dust, and silence. It had been that way for 1,000 years, until now. The small black shape, no larger than a helmet, sat at the center of a dry crater. It had drifted there after escaping. The anvil's blast. It had no engines, no weapons, and no heat. Just a strange pulse, slow and steady, like a heartbeat made of shadow. Then, the ground cracked. Tiny lines spread outward from the crater, like veins. Dust lifted. The pulse grew louder. Under the moon's surface, something old began to awaken. Machines long forgotten, left behind by a race long dead. They had been silent for centuries, but the black shape, part of the swarm, had found them, and now it was changing them. Across the galaxy, on Earth's outermost defense base, Station Halberd, an alert sounded. "Unusual gravitational spike detected," said a tech officer. "Sector Gamma 4, Captain Reyes frowned. "That's uncharted territory. What's out there?" "Nothing. Just a dead moon, or so we thought. The signal didn't match any known energy source. It wasn't natural, but it also wasn't human or alien. It was something else." The captain sent a report straight to Central Command. Within hours, Admiral Riker saw it. He stared at the screen. The data reminded him of one thing: the swarm's final pulse, the moment before it died, or faked its death. "It's starting again," he whispered. Solace, standing nearby, read the file. "The swarm found a way to live." "No," Riker said. "It found a way to grow." Back on the moon, machines began to rise. Strange, twisted forms, part metal, part black crystal. They moved without fuel, without sound. They followed the pulse like it was a voice calling them from the dark. One machine opened. Inside it, a soft blue glow appeared. It was trying to make contact. Not with the swarm, with someone else. In deep space, a listening post picked up a signal. A strange, warped message in hundreds of voices, some human, some Jaren, some unrecognizable. We hear, we learn, we grow, we return. The swarm had not only survived, it had made itself louder. Riker stood before the High Council on Earth. Behind him, footage played of the swarm's last attack. Then the data from the moon. "The war is not over," he said firmly. "It was only a test." One of the council members asked, "And what do you suggest?" Riker looked around. "The room. We strike first." Some gasped. Others sat in silence. "We know where it's hiding," Riker continued. "We don't wait for it to come to us. We finish it before it finishes growing." Solace stood up beside him. "We have a window, days, maybe a week. After that, the swarm will be stronger than before." Earth Command agreed. Project Eclipse was launched. 3 battlecruisers, including the Valiant, were chosen to lead the charge. With them came a new weapon, one made in secret, a smaller version of the anvil, built to fire faster, with less power. but still deadly. They called it the Hammer. As the fleet prepared, Riker gave one last order. No prisoners. No second chances. This time, we end it for good. On the moon, the swarm felt them coming, but it wasn't afraid. It was ready. It had copied more than just voices this time. It had copied tactics, emotion, and even curiosity. And it had made something new. A creature stepped out from the machines, tall, made of bone, metal, and black glass. It looked almost human. But its eyes glowed red, and its mind was not its own. It had one mission: destroy the Deathworlders. The human fleet dropped out of warp near the dead moon. The stars around it were dim. The space here felt cold, too quiet. Admiral Riker stood on the bridge of the Valiant, eyes fixed on the large dark shape in the distance. "That's not a moon anymore," Solace said, reading the scans. "It's a factory, a growing one." The surface had changed. Towers of black metal stretched upward like claws. Strange lights blinked in patterns. The swarm was building something. Fast. Riker knew they had one shot. Launch the Hammer. Strike the core. No hesitation. The small but powerful weapon was released. It moved silently toward the moon, carrying enough compressed energy to fold part of it into nothing. But then, something unexpected happened. A massive form rose from the surface. It was like a ship, but alive. Long, jagged wings, a red eye glowing in the center. The same shape they saw in the swarm's brain ship, but now larger. It opened its mouth and spoke. "You learned to kill. We learned to become." The voice echoed across all human ships. It wasn't just noise. It was inside their minds. Cold, calm, and terrible. The hammer was locked on target. Then it disappeared. Vanished. Mid-flight. Solace shouted, "It bent space! Like the anvil, it's copying us again!" Another wave of smaller swarm creatures rose from the moon, flying straight toward the fleet. "Defensive pattern Omega," Riker ordered. "Do not break formation." The battle began. Lasers, missiles, plasma bursts. Everything lit up the dark space. But the swarm had new tricks. Their fighters shifted shapes in mid-air. They dodged attacks like they knew what would happen. Ships began to fall, one after another. On the Valiant, alarms blared. "We can't win like this," Solace said. Riker stared ahead. "Then we don't play to win." He tapped the comms. "All ships, this is Riker. Fall back to grid point Zeta 9. Lure them there." "I have a plan." The ships moved. The swarm chased them, fast, hungry, and overconfident. What the swarm didn't know was that grid point Zeta 9 had something waiting: the wreckage of the anvil. The humans had left a surprise there, a hidden charge, a trap. Once the swarm was close enough, Riker gave the order: "Detonate!" The wreckage of the anvil exploded, not with fire, but with folded gravity. Space twisted in on itself. The swarm's front lines were pulled inward like paper into a flame. Screams echoed through the comms. But the big one, the creature with the red eye, survived. It flew through the destruction, heading straight for the Valiant. Inside the ship, everything shook. Riker stood still, waiting. The creature slammed into the hull, breaking through. Red lights flashed. The bridge doors burst open, and then it entered. It was tall, pale, metal and crystal for bones. A human-shaped monster. "You fear us," it said, "because you see yourself in us." Riker didn't flinch. "No," he said. "I see a mistake. One I'm about to erase." From behind his chair, he pulled a small device. A short-range singularity. Grenade. Experimental and extremely dangerous. The creature tilted its head. "You would die just to stop one of us?" Riker pressed the button. "I'm a Deathworlder. That's what we do." The blast tore through the ship. A ripple of black. Light swallowed both of them. Then silence. The rest of the swarm, now leaderless, began to fall apart. Without the central mind, they became lost. confused. Ships fired on each other. Structures collapsed. Within minutes, the dead moon went dark again. Later, Solace stood on the damaged bridge. The screen showed empty space. He did it. One officer whispered. He really did it. No trace of Riker. No trace of the creature. Only silence. Back on Earth, they held a memorial. Talrin of the Jarans spoke for his people. Admiral Riker did not come to our world for conquest. He came because he heard a cry for help. And now, across the stars, that cry will be answered. Not with fear, but with strength. A statue was built. Not of Riker alone, but of the human and Jaran people standing together. Above it engraved, in simple words, here stood the species that answered the call. Far away, in a corner of the galaxy untouched by war, a small black crystal floated through the dark. It was quiet, sleeping, but it pulsed, slowly, waiting.